Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. In today's episode, I want to provide you with an update on what's happening in Turkey. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that Turkey is a country that we've been following closely. And over the course of the last 18 months or so, Turkey has seen its currency, the LIRA, crashing in value. And at the same time, the country's experienced runaway inflation, which hit a high of 85% in October 2022. The leader of Turkey, President Erdogan, has been in power since 2003. However, there is a general election taking place on Sunday the 14th of May, and the latest polls are indicating that the opposition party are now in the lead in that electoral race. So in today's episode, I'll provide you with a full update as to what's happening in the election. We'll talk about the ongoing problem with regards to Sweden's application to join NATO, which has been blocked directly by Turkey. And the NATO rules require unanimous support from every single existing member, so Turkey does have the right of veto. We'll have a look at the ongoing relationship with Russia, and I'll share with you some really interesting information about the payments that Turkey is due to be making to Russia for its energy supplies. We'll also have a look at the current state of the economy, because that's one of the big issues that's come up as part of the election process. What's happening with inflation, the currency, and interest rates. And then finally today I'll wrap up with my summary as to what I think is likely to happen during the course of this election, and what the implications of this are for Turkey and the rest of the world.
Now, voters in Turkey are being called on to elect a new president and parliament this Sunday. Opposition leader KEMAL KILICDAROGLU has a narrow lead over the incumbent president.
The election poses a tough test for President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who seeks to continue on his two-decade-old rule. Erdogan held a rally in the city of Istanbul on Sunday. During the rally, the president accused the opposition alliance, known as the Republican People's Party, of siding with terrorists, and also called them pro-LGBTQ.
Masada bulunan o diğerleri bu LGBT'cilere hayır diyor mu? AK Parti asla LGBT'ci olmadı olmaz.
Erdogan's main challenger and opposition leader, KEMAL KILICDAROGLU, has also held a rally in the same city. KILICDAROGLU has portrayed his six-party alliance as a force for democratic change. His alliance includes liberals, nationalists, and religious conservatives. It has vowed to abandon the presidential system which Erdogan introduced after winning a hard-fought constitutional referendum in 2017. Other promises include defending women's rights and changing the economic system, which it has called orthodox.
So as you've just seen, President Erdogan's two-decade rule of Turkey is genuinely under threat this week. And the latest polls indicate that the leader of the six opposition parties, KEMAL KILICDAROGLU, is potentially going to win the election. Now, in terms of comparing the two candidates, President Erdogan is 69 years of age and was originally elected as Prime Minister of Turkey in 2003. The first 10 years of his rule proved to be successful, with Turkey enjoying a protracted economic boom, and the country saw an increase in the standard of living for its 85 million people. However, things haven't gone quite so well over the last 10 years. In 2016, President Erdogan survived a coup attempt. And as a direct result of this, a referendum was held in 2017, and President Erdogan's position was changed from Prime Minister to President, and a variety of legal changes were introduced, giving the President a lot more power. And around that time, President Erdogan decided to change the economic policies in Turkey and to adopt an unorthodox policy of dealing with inflation. So rather than increasing interest rates to try to bring inflation back down, the country started to reduce interest rates. Inflation started to get out of control, and the Turkish lira crashed in value. And as a result of both of these factors, the Turkish economy started to suffer significantly. And these are all contributing factors to the rise of the popularity of the opposition for this election. Now, before we go on any further today, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Atlas VPN, and to let you know about their amazing 3-year deal whereby you can get full coverage for only $1.83 per month, including an additional 3 months extra and a no-risk 30-day money-back guarantee. If you use the internet without any form of protection, you leave yourself exposed to tracking, hacking, and advertising. Using Atlas VPN protects you from all of these. Atlas VPN provides you with comprehensive security and is used by more than 6 million people worldwide. So it's fantastic news that it will protect you from hacking and tracking and data breaches. But what's also great news is that it can save you money and open up a whole new world of entertainment, because it allows you to change your location, which gives you the opportunity to get better deals and to access content that may not be available in your region. Atlas VPN is available to use on unlimited devices for one subscription, and Atlas VPN is currently offering an amazing 3-year deal whereby you can get full coverage for only $1.83 per month, including an additional 3 months extra and a no-risk 30-day money-back guarantee. So to purchase this exclusive Joe Blogs offer, please click in the description below. President Erdogan's main opponent in this election is 74-year-old KEMAL Kılıçdaroğlu, who is the head of the main opposition Republican People's Party. Now, Kılıçdaroğlu has actually been the leader of the Republican People's Party for the last 13 years, so he has actually been up against President Erdogan in previous elections, all of which he's lost. However, the key differences this time is that he is now heading up a 6-party alliance. The 6 main opposition parties in Turkey have all teamed up to try to win this election, and in addition to that, there is also the ongoing economic problems in the Turkish economy. So let's have a look at a recent interview that he gave, talking about his policies and a few other issues.
What is the biggest change people here in Turkey will see if you win the presidency?
We will fulfill people's longing for democracy. That's the biggest change, and it won't only be seen here in Turkey, but by the whole world. We will bring true democracy to this country.
You have a narrow lead in the polls. The pre-election atmosphere here in Turkey seems quite heated. Are you concerned for your security?
Let me put it this way. The security issue is one of the main problems in Turkey, but I have no worries because I am totally focused on the election, and we will win this election and bring democracy to Turkey.
Do you think the current administration will ensure a democratic handover of power, or do you expect problems and delays?
I told the people to go to the polling stations and vote, and a lot of people will go there and vote in these elections, and we will win and send Erdogan away.
If you lose the election, what will Turkey lose? What's at stake here?
We will not lose the election. We will win the election.
So the main changes that Kılıçdaroğlu is looking to introduce are a full return to the parliamentary system, which he claims will be stronger than the one that was in place before the presidential system was introduced in 2018. The position of Prime Minister will be reinstated, and although the presidency will remain, it will become an impartial role with no political responsibility. The president's right to veto legislation and issue decrees would therefore be abolished. The president would sever ties to any political party, only serve one 7-year term, and afterwards would be banned from active politics. Parliament's authority to back out of international agreements would be enshrined in the Constitution. It will also have more authority over planning the government budget. In public administration, boards and offices under the presidency would be abolished and their duties transferred to relevant ministries. In terms of the economy, the main focus is to lower inflation to single digits within 2 years and restore the stability of the Turkish lira, which has lost over 80% of its value against the dollar in the last 5 years. It would also ensure the central bank's independence and roll back measures such as allowing the cabinet to select the governor of the bank. The plan is also to prepare legislation allowing Parliament to pass laws on the central bank's mission, operational independence and high-level appointments. Policies that interfere with the floating exchange rate would end, including the government scheme that protects lira deposits against currency depreciation. Government expenditure would be cut by reducing the number of planes used by the presidency, the number of vehicles used by civil servants, and selling some state buildings. All projects under public-private partnerships would be reviewed. The latest nuclear plant project, which is owned by Russian state entities, would be reviewed, and existing natural gas contracts would be renegotiated to reduce the risk of dependence on certain countries for gas imports. And obviously the implication here is the large dependency that Turkey has on Russia. In terms of foreign policy, the slogan of peace at home, peace in the world would be promoted as the cornerstone of Turkey's foreign policy. The party plans to work to complete the accession process for the full membership of the European Union. However, it will also review Turkey's 2016 refugee deal with the European Union, under which Turkey takes in a lot of refugees in exchange for payments from the European Union. Basically, the European Union doesn't want all the refugees coming into the EU, and so it's asked Turkey to build camps to hold everybody there. Turkey would also look to re-establish its relationship with the USA with an understanding of mutual trust and return Turkey to the F-35 fighter jet program, which it was expelled from after purchasing missile systems directly from Russia. Turkey would maintain relations with Russia with an understanding that both parties are equal and strengthened by balanced and constructive dialogue. The party has also pledged to ensure the independence of the judiciary, which critics have said has been used to crack down on dissent against the existing government.
What is your message to Turkey's Western allies?
We will turn Turkey's foreign policy around 180 degrees. We'll bring all the democratic rules stipulated by the European Union to our country. The leaders of our six-party opposition alliance have agreed on all the arrangements that need to be made within this framework agreement, and we will implement them in our country. The biggest change will be answering people's calls for democracy.
And how would your relationship with Russian President Putin look like?
We are a member of the NATO alliance. We are also a country that has applied for membership to the European Union. Therefore, we will turn towards the West and towards Western civilization. Of course, we would like to have good relations with Russia. We have many business people working there, but we do not think Russia's invasion of Ukraine is right, and we do not accept it.
If you've been following the channel, you'll be fully aware that in the summer of 2022, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Finland and Sweden both applied formally to join NATO. NATO is an alliance that was formed in 1949 following the end of World War II, with the main purpose of guaranteeing freedom and security of its member states through political and military means. At the time of Finland and Sweden's application, it consisted of 28 countries in Europe, plus the USA and Canada. And the main driver for this application is that Finland shares a border of around 800 miles directly with Russia, and Sweden is a direct neighbour of Finland and one of the last major European countries that isn't party to NATO. Now, in order for both of these countries to gain membership, all 30 countries had to vote in favour, a unanimous vote was required, and Turkey came out and stated that they were not supportive of either Finland or Sweden joining and accused both countries of harbouring terrorists that were involved in the coup attempt against President Erdogan in 2016. Now, after a period of prolonged negotiation, Turkey subsequently agreed to vote in favour of Finland joining, and the following announcement was made on the 31st of March 2023.
I welcome the vote by the Turkish Grand National Assembly to ratify Finland's membership in NATO. All 30 NATO allies have now ratified the accession protocol. And I have just spoken with President Sauli Niinistö to congratulate him on this historic occasion. Finland will formally join our alliance in the coming days. All allies agree that the rapid conclusion of the ratification process for Sweden will be in everyone's interest. I look forward to also welcoming Sweden as a full member of the NATO family as soon as possible.
So Finland has now joined NATO, which officially has 31 members. However, President Erdogan and Turkey's official stance with Sweden is that they are still vetoing that vote. They are not approving Sweden's application. President Erdogan claims that Sweden is sheltering a number of terrorists and is refusing to hand them over to Turkey. And there have also been some highly inflammatory protests in Sweden over the course of the last few months. Now, this issue has currently been parked until the outcome of the election. Obviously, if President Erdogan loses the election, then it will no longer be within his control to be able to veto the Sweden vote. And as you saw earlier in the video, KEMAL is very pro-European and supportive of Turkey's position within NATO. So it's likely that if he gains power, Turkey will vote in favour of Sweden joining NATO and everything will go through fine. However, if President Erdogan wins this election, there is no guarantee that Turkey will change its position and Sweden could be left out in the cold. Turkey is a net importer of energy products and is reliant on large amounts of natural gas that are being supplied directly from Russia. And it's now been revealed that Turkey has deferred the payment of a $600 million natural gas bill until 2024. And this arrangement is the first such postponement under a deal announced recently that underlines the deepening ties between Turkey and Russia. Under the terms of the agreement, up to $4 billion in Turkish energy payments to Russia may be postponed for at least 12 months. Turkey Energy Minister Fatih Dönmez announced recently that Turkey and Moscow had agreed a deal to defer energy payments up to a certain amount, but no official details were provided. Turkey's energy import bill hit a record $100 billion in 2022, and in the year to February 23, it imported 39% of its total 53.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas directly from Russia. This deal underlines ties between Russia and Turkey, with the closeness between President Putin and President Erdogan allowing them to hold frequent talks on issues ranging from energy to the wars in Ukraine and Syria. Turkey has sought to strike a balance in the war between Russia and Ukraine, opposing Western sanctions on Moscow, whilst also providing arms to Ukraine. Turkey have also helped broker a deal that allowed the resumption of Ukrainian grain exports. In terms of energy supply, Russia's state nuclear energy company, Rosatom, has built a $20 billion, 4,800 megawatt nuclear power plant in Akuyu. And President Erdogan has previously suggested that Turkey would like to develop further its cooperation with Russia in terms of defence and energy. This chart shows the movement in the rate of inflation in Turkey over the last 5 years. And as you can see from this chart, at the end of 2021, which is when the authorities introduced the contrarian policy of deciding to raise interest rates to tackle high levels of inflation, inflation started to take off. And if we look at this chart, which shows the movement over the last 12 months, you can see that this time last year, inflation was running at 75% in Turkey. It continued to rise to a peak level of almost 86% in October 2022. However, over the course of the last 6 months, inflation has started to come down. However, one thing to note about this chart is that the bottom of these bar charts doesn't end at zero. The base level here starts at 40%. So you can see that the current official rate of interest in Turkey is just under 44%. So whilst the trend is moving in the right direction, the absolute level of inflation is still extremely high. And we look at this table, which looks at the rate of inflation for the G20, which are the 20 largest economies in the world. You can see that Turkey has the second highest rate of inflation. The only country with a higher rate is Argentina, where inflation is now above 100%. And if you're interested in finding out what's going on in Argentina, please check out the recent video that I posted. But if you look at the Turkey situation at 44%, it's over 4 times higher than the next highest rate of inflation, which is just over 10% in the United Kingdom. And if we look at this table, which compares every single country in the world, you can see that Turkey currently has the 11th highest inflation rate in the world. And it's only countries like Lebanon, Venezuela, Syria, Argentina, and Zimbabwe that have higher rates. And if you look further down this list, you can see that Turkey's rate of inflation is actually higher than it is in countries such as Sierra Leone, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, and Egypt, all of whom are going through major economic crises. So just because the rate of inflation is coming down, it doesn't mean that Turkey has solved all of its problems. And in fact, the economy is still sitting on a knife edge. This chart plots the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Turkish lira over the course of the last 5 years. And what this shows is that 5 years ago, one US dollar was trading for around 4.5 lira. However, today it's trading for just under 20 lira. So that represents a significant decline in value. Now, as you can see from this chart, the majority of that decline took place during 2022, which was the time when the unorthodox economic policy was introduced and inflation started to take off. So we had a combination of the purchasing power within Turkey falling on a month-by-month basis, and also the lira became less attractive and a high level of dollarization started to occur within the Turkish economy. So a number of factors led to the deterioration in the value of the lira. And if we look at what's happened over the course of the last 12 months, this time last year, one US dollar was trading for around 15 lira. So over the course of the last 12 months, we've seen a further decline of over 30%. So once again, Turkey hasn't solved its problems. It's not out of the woods. It isn't back onto an even keel. It's still got ongoing problems. And until the economy sorts itself out, it's unlikely that we will see any stability in the value of the lira. So what's the summary and conclusion today? Well, I wanted to post this video really to give you an update as to what's happening in Turkey, because the forthcoming election could be one of the biggest turning points in Turkey's history. As it stands at the moment, President Erdogan is behind in the polls. So it looks like the people of Turkey are voting for change. And if you look at what's happened all around the world over the course of the last few years, we have seen a lot of countries changing the party that's in power. When countries go through tough economic periods, people become unhappy and they want to see something change. And quite often the direct result of that desire for change is that the ruling party will be voted out and opposition will be voted in. So there is potential that this could happen in Turkey. However, it's not quite as straightforward as that, because in order to win the election, one of the candidates needs to gain more than 50% of the vote. Now, as it stands at the moment, the opposition does have a slight lead, but neither party has more than 50%. They are both sitting somewhere in the 40s. So if the general election is concluded and neither party has 50%, we then have to go to what's called a runoff. And a runoff is held just between the two candidates. So this takes out all of the other parties that are in the election that may be taking up 1 or 2% of the vote. So we will then have a direct head-to-head challenge between President Erdogan and the opposition. And I think this is probably the most likely outcome. When the final votes are counted, it's unlikely that anybody will have more than 50%. And so the election will then move on to a second stage, and it's only at that stage that we'll have an indication as to who's likely to win. And the winner of this election is really important because it will have a direct impact on Turkey's strategies and policies over the course of the next 5 years. As you've seen in today's video, the opposition leader wants to bring back democracy, wants to reduce the powers of the presidential role, and more importantly, wants to closer align to Europe and NATO. So this really is a change of policy because President Erdogan has been closely aligning himself to President Putin while still maintaining his membership of NATO. So over the course of the last year or so, he's been able to maintain relations with both the West and Russia. So if President Erdogan manages to stay in power, it's likely that that position will continue, that Russia and Turkey will continue to be close allies. Russia will be providing a lot of energy products to Turkey and may well be developing other business relations. If President Erdogan loses his position, then I think we could see things changing. Turkey could actually become a full member state of the European Union and as such would have more of a European flavour, and therefore it's less likely that the relationship with Russia would be as strong going forward. And of course, as we discussed earlier in the video, one of the issues that's still on the table right now is whether or not Turkey will vote in favour of Sweden joining NATO. Sweden are really one of the last major countries to join up with the alliance, and Turkey is blocking that position at the moment. So if President Erdogan loses his position, it's likely that Sweden will be voted in. If he remains in power, it will be interesting to see whether he changes his position and approves the Sweden application, or if he sticks to his guns and refuses to allow them entry. And then the final issue in terms of the implications of this vote relate to the Turkish economy. President Erdogan has been following this policy of reducing interest rates to try to tackle high inflation, and it hasn't really been working over the course of the last 18 months or so. The opposition party have announced that they will be changing that strategy to a more traditional policy whereby it's likely that there will be increasing interest rates to bring down inflation. And it'll be really interesting to see what effect that has on the Turkish economy. So the overall summary of today's video is that the outcome of this election is going to be really important, obviously for Turkey, but also Turkey's relations with both the West and Russia. So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments as and when they happen. If you've liked what I've said in today's video, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end, and here's something to put a smile on your face.